gentlemen, welcome to Vox Politika, your Kenyan #1 YouTube political channel, where we unravel and unpack Kenya's most biggest and hottest political headlines. My name is always Jacob Nyende, and today I want us to dive into the dark tactics that William Ruto has employed to control this country while ensuring that he evades accountability. Now, when he came into power, President William Ruto, many Kenyans had hope for a coup done in this country. They hoped a country where there was eradication of corruption. They hoped a country where the economy will stabilize and the mamambogas and the borders will have a decent life in the country. They also hoped for a country where they will be accountable in governance. But since he took power, the picture that has been painted is very different. Now join me in this video and let's look at the very dark tactics that President William Ruto is employing to control this country as he evades accountability. Now before we dig so deeper into this, I would like to thank you, those who have subscribed to this channel. Thank you so much for doing that. And also invite those who are watching right now, if you're here, you're watching and you have never subscribed to this channel or it's your first time here, kindly I ask you for just 1 second of your time, take it and smash that subscription button, hit the notification bell, and also press that like button. Just by doing that, you will have helped me to reach a broader audience. Thank you so much for doing that. Getting to the topic of our discussion today, President William Ruto, since the day he took power, he developed some tactics, some mind games that he playing with Kenyans.
A judgment that turned the heat on President William Ruto's decision to seemingly apply the law on one hand and break it at the same time.
During the first time that they were being sworn on, he instructed Gachagua to tell the country that they inherited empty coffers. Loudly on the stage immediately after being sworn in during his speech before he brought in the president, the former Vice President Rigathi Gachagua, through the instruction of William Ruto, stood and said that they have inherited empty coffers in front of Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president who was sitting there to hand over the powers, that they have inherited empty coffers.
The matter is that we have inherited a dilapidated economy that is facing almost an economic shutdown. We have a 10 trillion public debt. 6 million Kenyans have no employment. 14 million Kenyans are in CRB. We have a demoralized public service. It is your prayers that will help our president to put up a team and start work from day one to liberate this country economically and put it back to where President Mwai Kibaki left us 10 years ago.
This was not just a narrative. This was a strategy to make sure that they steal what Uhuru Kenyatta left there without accountability. The truth, after the National Treasury gave out its support, there were billions in those accounts and some other billions were in the ongoing project. So by them saying that they inherited empty coffers and they really made Kenyans believe that indeed these people inherited empty coffers, this created room for them to loot what was already in those accounts, like in the NHIF docket. You remember they looted everything. And those hospitals that had given services, especially the private hospitals, were complaining that we gave services and the NHIF has not paid that because the money that Uhuru Kenyatta left in the accounts, William Ruto swept all of it with his government and they took where we do not know. And then by doing that, already they had told us that the accounts are empty. So Kenyans, we believe the accounts were empty. This also gave them room to raise taxes so that they can collect money to fill these empty accounts. It also gave them a freedom to divert this money without accountability. So that's one tactic that they used immediately they were sworn in. Another tactic that they are using is that you see in the same sitting of swearing in his speech, President William Ruto declared that he had given autonomy to the National Police Service to operate independently. He gave them financial autonomy, and he made the Inspector General of Police, he made him the boss of the police unit, which includes the National Administration Police, the DCI, and of course the Kenya Police.
As I address you, I have instructed
that the instruments conferring financial autonomy to the National Police Service by transferring their budget from the Office of the President and designating the Inspector General as the accounting officer be placed on my desk for signature this afternoon. Financial independence of the police will give impetus to the fight against corruption and end the political weaponization of the criminal justice system, an undertaking I made to the people of Kenya.
By giving them that autonomy, on paper, it looked like a very good reform that the president was bringing into the country and bringing on board in his administration, something he said that his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, had failed to do. So he gave the financial autonomy to the Inspector General of the Police to operate independently. On paper, as I say, it looks like a very good reform, a good starting reform that the president is signing. But practically, actually, it gave the president a loophole. It allowed him now, like for this now, when there is police brutality, when the police is being used to kill its own citizens, like what we saw in Angata Barakoi the other day, when police stormed that place, that village, and killed 6 people. Some were shot in the head, shooting to kill. So what we know is that the police is still being controlled politically from the president's office. But now that he claimed that the police are independent, when such brutality against the Kenyan citizen happens, then President William Ruto can be able now to step aside and say that they are independent. I don't control the police. Ask the Inspector General. So the Inspector General of Police bears the blame and he carries the burden. You see what happened when Gen Zs were murdered. The former IG, Inspector General Japhet Kome, was forced to resign. Why? Because you see, after the BBC documentary exposed that there were military officers, and that military officer was well shown that military officer was involved to shoot and kill people in parliament. Does the IG command the military? Inspector General Police does not command the military. So who commanded the military to come and kill people in parliament, then blame the IG? It was the president, who is the chief commander of the armed forces. He's the only one who can give a command that bringing now the armed forces to help the police. So you see, in such instances, now that he gave them autonomy, I gave you independent, you are independent, you are on your own. But under the carpets, his play is still controlling the police unit. So the IGs, the general, the Inspector General of Police in this country are really suffering. So that is the trick that he's using. Another trick that William Ruto is using to evade accountability in this country is by appointing his loyalists into the government positions. The critical government positions, like people like Murkomen, they cannot say something bad. They cannot expose William Ruto. Even if William Ruto was to steal huge amounts of money from the Ministry of Interior and National Administration through Kipchumba Murkomen, they will steal all together and go home and eat it, send it to abroad, and Kenyans will never know. So there was nobody who's going to raise alarm so that they are put to account for this money. They're all going to keep quiet and silence those financial officers who work in those departments. So by bringing into his leadership his loyalist, if you are not his loyalist, then he's going to send you out. We saw what happened with the Muturi. Okay? So another thing is that he's using, through those loyalists now, is to send them to speak. He sends you to do or say something. Then when the public realizes that, like, for example, the DCI went, sometime Kashagwa was telling us that the DCIs were sent by the president to go and arrest the then agricultural minister, Linturi, over the issue of fertilizer. But when Linturi realized that the Subarus were following him closely, he called Kashagwa and he asked him, truthful man, what's happening? Are you aware that that I'm being trailed by the Suparu men? The DCI, they want to arrest me over the fertilizer issues. Then Kashagwa said, I don't know, I'm with the president, let me inquire. And when he inquired from the president said that he didn't know, but after some time, after calling the DPP confirmed that the president had actually instructed him to arrest. Linturi arrest his own minister. Listen to the clip here.
Nilikuwa mbele ya rais, kufika tu nikamuita kando, nikamwambia rais, nataka tuongee kidogo. Akasema iko nini? Nikamwambia iko kitu very urgent. Akasema haiwezi ngoja. Nikamwambia hapana, iko nini? Nikamwambia rais, si asubuhi niambia Linturi afanye kazi, mbona huku niambia anashikwa? Kuna mtu Kenya waziri anaweza shikwa bila yeye kujua? Akasema hapana. How come Linturi anashikwa? Either wewe si mtu mzuri ama hujui nini naendelea Kenya. So akajifanya akapiga masimu. Luckily alipiga simu ameweka speakerphone, akapigia DCI. DCI, hii maneno mimi nasikia Linturi nashikwa ni maneno gani? Sijui nini, tulichunguza nini, lakini DPP ameapprove. Kwa nini mnashtakia bila mimi kujua? No, sisi tulifikiria kama DPP ameapprove, ameuliza ruhusa kwako. Akasema ngojeni kidogo nitamwambia. Akapigia DPP. DPP iko namna gani? Hii maneno ya Linturi iko namna gani? Tumetaka ashtakiwe. Kwa nini? Si rais ulisema tukusaidie maneno hii mtu akuondoke? Akalia rais alikuwa ameweka speakerphone akasema. Unasikia? Sasa ndio nikajua ndiye mwenye kupanga hii maneno. So wacha nikwambie, nikatoa ukali nikamwambia rais, wewe si mtu mzuri. You cannot do this. This Linturi is an innocent man. Mbona namwekelea kesi na nyinyi ndio mnauza fertilizer? Sasa hiyo maneno ikasimami, hiyo file ya Linturi si ilikuwa imefunguliwa? Ingali iko.
So that is a tactic that he is using, that he is acting through other people. He tells you to do something, and then when that something is done, is a heinous act. Once it is executed, and people, the Kenyans start realizing who did this, he says, I'm not the one. It is the minister who did it. The security, the DCI, their independent body, ask them why did they arrest Linturi. So that is another tactic that he is doing. He's speaking through other people. He speaks through you. He sends you to go and tell people something. But when you refuse, the president deletes you. Like in the case of Muturi. Let's listen to Muturi, what happened to him when he was told to sign a document, then he refused in the airport in Dubai. A deal that was a corruption deal between the president and the Indians. See what Muturi told the Kenyans.
I land in Dubai, Ruto is calling me. Those people, those Russians, they are there, they are in Dubai, they are waiting, you signed in. I said, I'm just at the airport and I'm on transit. I am not leaving the airport. Right. He said, no, but they are there. Your people, your staff have already worked on the document. I said, no, I will need to go and review it in office. Yes. I told them, no, it came from the Minister of Environment, which they pushed through. I told them this thing, the $1 billion can only be by way of a grant, but it cannot come directly to the ministry because under the PFM Act, Section 47, it can only go through the National Treasury. They are trying to avoid that money going to the National Treasury, and is money coming from abroad. Right. I mean, and you're being asked to sign in an airport. I'm being told to sign at Dubai airport, and there's William Ruto calling me directly.
And those are the tactics that our current incumbent president is using to control this country while evading accountability. He doesn't want to be accountable for his action. That's why he has restructured power to evade accountability. In the comment section, dear viewers, let me see what your thoughts are on these heinous and dark tactics that our president has employed to control the nation while evading accountability. This is Vox Politika, and if this is first time you're watching us, kindly leave a subscription, leave a comment, like, and share this video to help me reach a wider audience. And with that, I beg to see you in our next video.